Rebecca sat at the small corner table, her fingers wrapped around a cup of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. She glanced at her phone again. Still nothing. No text. No call. No explanation. Just silence. The cafe was one of those cozy places, with soft yellow lighting and the smell of fresh pastries hanging in the air. Normally, she would have loved being here. But right now, every minute felt like an hour. The couple at the next table kept stealing glances at her, probably wondering why she was sitting alone looking so nervous. The waiter had already come by twice, asking if she needed anything else. His voice full of that polite pity that made her want to disappear. This whole thing had been her best friend Jennifer's idea. Jennifer worked at a hospital with her, and had spent months trying to convince her to download that dating app. "You're 32, Becca. You can't just spend every evening at home with your cat," Jennifer had said, waving her phone in her face. "Look, this guy seems genuinely nice. He's got kind eyes. Just meet him once. What's the worst that could happen?" Well, this was apparently the worst that could happen. Getting stood up at a cafe on a Friday evening while wearing her best dress and the uncomfortable heels she only wore for special occasions. Rebecca checked the time again. 35 minutes late now. She'd give him 5 more minutes, she decided. Just 5 more minutes, and then she could go home, change into her pajamas, and pretend this never happened. Maybe she'd stop by the grocery store and buy that expensive ice cream she'd been eyeing all week. If she was going to feel sorry for herself, she might as well do it properly. She reached for her purse, already planning her escape route, when she heard a small voice beside her. "Excuse me, are you Rebecca?" She looked up, confused, and found herself staring at 2 little girls. They couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. They were identical twins with long blonde hair pulled back in matching ponytails. Both wore pink dresses with white flowers on them, and both had the same bright blue eyes looking at her with a mixture of hope and nervousness. Rebecca blinked, completely thrown off. Yes. I'm Rebecca." The girl on the left smiled with relief. "Oh, good. We found you." She nudged her sister, who seemed a bit more shy. The other twin took a small step forward and said in a soft voice, "Our daddy's really sorry he's late. His car broke down on the highway. But he's coming as fast as he can. He asked us to find you and tell you he didn't forget." Rebecca's mind was spinning. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, not sure what to say. This was definitely not what she'd expected. Her blind date had children, twin daughters, and he'd sent them ahead to explain why he was late. Before she could process any of this, both girls had already climbed into the chairs across from her, setting down their small backpacks like they were settling in for the evening. The more outgoing twin pulled out a coloring book and a box of crayons, spreading them across the table. "I'm Lily," she announced cheerfully. "And this is my sister Rose. We're twins, in case you couldn't tell. Everyone says we look exactly the same. But we're actually really different. I like purple, and she likes pink. Well, we both like pink, but she likes it more." Rose nodded seriously. "It's true." Rebecca found herself smiling despite her confusion. There was something absolutely adorable about how seriously Rose said it, as if the difference in their favorite colors was a matter of great importance. "It's nice to meet you both," Rebecca managed to say. "So your dad, he sent you here by yourselves?" "Oh no," Lily said, carefully selecting a purple crayon. "He put us in a taxi with a really nice driver. Her name was Mrs. Patterson, and she has 3 grandchildren. She showed us pictures. Then Daddy gave her extra money to make sure we got inside safely and found you. He described what you looked like, and everything. He said, you'd be the prettiest lady in the cafe." Rebecca felt her cheeks warm at that. She didn't know whether to be flattered or alarmed by this entire situation. This was definitely the strangest date she'd ever been on, and the actual date hadn't even arrived yet. "We go to Riverside Elementary," Rose offered, coloring in what looked like a butterfly. "We're in 1st grade. Miss Cooper is our teacher, and she's really nice. She lets us sit together, even though some teachers make twins sit apart." "That does sound nice," Rebecca said, finding herself genuinely interested. Do you like school? Most of the time, Lily said. Except for math. Math is hard. But I'm really good at reading. Rose is good at art. She can draw really good horses. Really well? Rose corrected automatically. Miss Cooper says it's really well. Not really good. Lily rolled her eyes in that way only siblings can. See what I mean? She's the good one. Rebecca laughed, a real laugh that surprised her. 5 minutes ago, she'd been ready to leave, hurt and embarrassed. Now she was sitting here with 2 chatty 6-year-olds, and somehow her whole mood had shifted. So, Rebecca said, leaning forward a bit, what else should I know about you two? The girls lit up at the question, and suddenly words were tumbling out of both of them. They told her about their pet hamster, named Mr. Whiskers, who liked to run on his wheel at 3 in the morning and wake everyone up. They told her about how their daddy made pancakes every Sunday in funny shapes, animals and flowers, and once even a dinosaur. Though Lily insisted it looked more like a blob. They told her about their favorite cartoons and how they were learning to ride bikes without training wheels. Rose was better at it, but Lily was faster on her scooter. They told her about their grandmother who lived 2 streets away and baked the best chocolate chip cookies in the whole world. Rebecca found herself completely absorbed in their stories. They were bright, sweet kids, with personalities that shone through in everything they said. She noticed how Lily was the natural talker, jumping from topic to topic, while Rose was more thoughtful, adding details that Lily forgot. Then Lily said something that made Rebecca's heart squeeze. We have a cat too, but he's really old. Daddy says he knew our mommy. Rose's voice got quieter. Our mommy's in heaven. She got sick when we were really little, like baby little. We don't remember her much. But Daddy shows us pictures and tells us stories. And Daddy says she's watching over us like a guardian angel. Lily added quickly, her usual brightness dimming just a little. He says she'd be really proud of us for being brave and kind. Rebecca felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She swallowed hard, trying to keep her voice steady. I'm sure she would be. You both seem like wonderful girls. Rose gave her a small smile, and Lily quickly changed the subject back to Mr. Whiskers and his latest cage escape adventure. But Rebecca's mind was reeling. This man she was supposed to meet was a widower, raising 2 little girls on his own, and he was late because his car broke down, probably rushing to get here, probably stressed about making a good first impression. She looked at these 2 sweet children across from her, coloring and chatting like they didn't have a care in the world. And something shifted inside her chest. Whatever happened tonight, she was glad she'd stayed. Just then, the cafe door burst open, and a man stumbled in, looking absolutely frantic. The man who rushed through the door looked like he'd just survived a disaster. His dark hair was messy, sticking up in places like he'd been running his hands through it. His white shirt had grease stains on the sleeves, and his tie hung loose and crooked around his neck. There was even a smudge of dirt on his cheek. His eyes scanned the cafe desperately until they landed on their table. Girls, he called out, relief flooding his face. Daddy. Both twins shouted at once, though they stayed in their seats, well trained not to cause a scene in public. The man hurried over to them, and Rebecca got her first real look at him. Even disheveled and stressed, he was handsome, really handsome, tall, with strong features and those same bright blue eyes his daughters had. But what struck her most was the genuine panic that had been on his face seconds ago, the fear of a father who'd sent his children ahead and was terrified something might have gone wrong. He reached the table and immediately crouched down between the girls' chairs, putting a hand on each of their heads. Are you both okay? Mrs. Patterson got you here safely? We're fine, Daddy, Lily said, patting his hand like she was the parent comforting the child. We found Rebecca. Just like you said. She's really nice. Only then did he seem to remember Rebecca was there. He stood up quickly, almost knocking over Rose's chair, and his face flushed red. I am so sorry, he began, his words tumbling out in a rush. My car died on the highway. Just completely gave up. I tried calling, but my phone died too, and I realized I only had your number saved in my phone, not memorized. And by the time I got to a gas station to use their phone, I thought it would be faster to just send the girls ahead in a taxi so you wouldn't think I'd stood you up. Which I realize now might have been a terrible decision. Showing up to a first date with 2 kids. Breathe, Rebecca said gently, surprising herself with how calm she sounded. It's okay. Really. He stopped mid-sentence, looking at her like he couldn't quite believe what he was hearing. It's okay? Your daughters explained everything, Rebecca said, gesturing to the twins who were watching this exchange with great interest. And honestly, they've been the best company I've had in a long time. We've been having a great conversation about Mr. Whiskers and his escape adventures. Mr. Whiskers is very naughty, Rose added seriously. The man let out a long breath, and some of the tension left his shoulders. But he still looked uncomfortable, standing there in his stained shirt, clearly aware of how he must look. Listen, he said. I need to go clean up. I look like I just crawled out from under a car, which is basically what happened. Would you mind if I just took 5 minutes? I promise I'll be quick. The girls can stay with you, if that's okay? Or I can take them with me. They can stay, Rebecca said, and she meant it. Take your time. We're good here. He looked at her for a long moment, something like wonder crossing his face, before he nodded and headed toward the restroom. Rebecca watched him go, noticing how he walked with his shoulders slightly hunched, like he was carrying the weight of the world. As soon as he was out of earshot, Lily leaned across the table conspiratorially. He was really nervous about tonight, she whispered. He changed his shirt 3 times. Lily, Rose hissed. You're not supposed to tell her that. Why not? It's cute. Girls like to know when boys are nervous about them. Grandma told me that. Rebecca bit back a smile. Your grandma sounds very wise. She is, Lily said proudly. She's the one who made Daddy download the dating app. She said he needed to have some fun for once, instead of just working and taking care of us all the time. Rose nodded. Daddy works really hard. He's an engineer. He builds bridges and buildings and stuff. But he always makes time for us. He comes to every school event. Even when he's really tired. He helps with our homework every night, Lily continued. Even though Rose's art projects are really messy and get glitter everywhere. That was one time. Rose protested. Listening to them, Rebecca felt something warm spreading through her chest. These girls clearly adored their father, and from everything they'd said, he sounded like a genuinely good man, a devoted dad who was trying his best to do everything right. The waiter appeared beside their table, eyeing the coloring books spread across the surface. Can I get you ladies anything else? Rebecca glanced at the twins. Are you girls hungry? Their eyes lit up, and they both nodded eagerly. Can we get the chocolate chip pancakes? Lily asked hopefully. Daddy said we already had dinner, but that was hours ago, and we're growing girls who need our energy. Rebecca laughed. Chocolate chip pancakes it is. And I think I'll have the club sandwich. She looked up at the waiter. And whatever the gentleman who just went to the restroom wants when he gets back. As the waiter left, Rose said quietly, You're really pretty. Daddy's pictures didn't do you justice. That's what Grandma would say. Thank you, sweetheart, Rebecca said, touched. You're both very pretty, too. We look like our mommy, Lily said matter-of-factly. Daddy says so. She had blonde hair like us. He has a picture of her on his nightstand. She's wearing a white dress and holding flowers. That's from their wedding day, Rose explained. Daddy says it was the happiest day of his life. Well, until we were born. Then he had 2 happiest days. Rebecca felt her throat tighten. She'd been through breakups before, dealt with guys who ghosted her or turned out to be nothing like they'd seemed online. But this was different. This man had loved someone deeply, lost her, and was now trying to build a new life, while raising two little girls who clearly meant everything to him. Your mommy must have been very special, Rebecca said softly. Daddy says she was the kindest person he ever met, Lily said. She was a teacher. She taught kindergarten. She loved kids. Rose twisted her napkin in her lap. Sometimes I wish I could remember her better. Lily and I were only 2 when she got sick. But Daddy tells us stories all the time, so it's like we know her anyway. Before Rebecca could respond, their father returned. He looked like a different person. His face was clean, his hair was combed, and he'd somehow managed to make his tie look presentable. The grease stains were still on his shirt, but there was nothing he could do about those. That's much better, Rebecca said with a smile. He slid into the empty chair, looking more relaxed but still cautious. I ordered some food for everyone, Rebecca continued. I hope that's okay. The girls said they were hungry. We're getting chocolate chip pancakes, Lily announced. He smiled at his daughters, then turned to Rebecca. Most people would have left the moment 2 kids showed up. Well, Rebecca said, meeting his eyes, I'm not most people. And, honestly, this has been the most interesting first date I've ever had. He laughed, a real, genuine laugh that made his whole face light up. I'm Daniel, by the way. I feel like we should probably do proper introductions at this point. Rebecca, she said, even though he already knew that. It's nice to finally meet you, Daniel. The pleasure is definitely all mine, he said. And the way he looked at her made her stomach flutter in a way she hadn't felt in years. The waiter brought their food. And as they ate, the conversation flowed naturally. Daniel told her about his work as a civil engineer, how he designed structures that would last for generations. He talked about the bridge project he was currently working on, his eyes lighting up as he described the challenges and solutions. Rebecca told him about her job as a trauma surgeon, about the long hours and the intensity, but also about the incredible feeling of saving someone's life. She'd worried that her career might scare him off like it had scared off other guys. But Daniel seemed genuinely fascinated. That must be incredibly stressful, he said. It is, she admitted. But I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else. I get that, Daniel said. When you find your calling, nothing else compares. The girls chimed in periodically, telling stories that made them all laugh. Rebecca found herself completely charmed by this little family. There was such genuine warmth between them, such easy affection. When Rose spilled chocolate syrup down the front of her dress, Rebecca didn't even hesitate. She grabbed napkins and helped clean it up, making silly faces that turned Rose's tears into giggles. Daniel watched this with an expression she couldn't quite read. Wonder, maybe, or disbelief. As the cafe began to empty out around them, Rebecca realized they'd been sitting there for almost 3 hours. It felt like 30 minutes. The cafe owner, an elderly woman with kind eyes, approached their table with an apologetic smile. I'm so sorry, folks, but we're closing up in about 10 minutes. Can I get you anything else before we shut down for the night? Daniel glanced at his watch, and his eyebrows shot up. I had no idea it was so late. I'm sorry. We should have been more aware of the time. Don't apologize, the owner said warmly, looking at the twins who were now sleepy-eyed and yawning. It's been lovely having you here. Those are beautiful girls you have there. Thank you, Daniel said softly, reaching over to brush a strand of hair from Rose's face. Rebecca felt something twist in her chest at the gesture. It was so gentle, so naturally loving. This was a man who'd learned to be both mother and father, and he did it without even thinking about it. They gathered their things, Daniel helping the girls pack up their coloring books while Rebecca collected the scattered crayons that had rolled across the table. It felt oddly domestic, this simple act of cleaning up together, like they'd done it 100 times before. As they stepped outside into the cool evening air, Lily immediately reached for Rebecca's hand. The gesture was so trusting, so natural, that Rebecca felt tears prick at her eyes. She squeezed the little hand gently. My feet hurt, Rose whimpered, leaning against her father's leg. I told you to wear your sneakers, Lily said, in that know-it-all voice that only sisters can manage. Daniel sighed and bent down. "Come here, sweetheart." He scooped Rose up onto his hip, then looked at Lily. "You too. Troublemaker." "I'm not a troublemaker," Lily protested, but she was already reaching up to be carried. Daniel hoisted both girls up, one on each hip, and for a moment he wobbled slightly under their combined weight. Rebecca instinctively reached out to steady him, her hand on his arm. "I've got them," he said. But he was clearly struggling. These weren't tiny toddlers anymore. They were solid 6-year-olds. "Here," Rebecca said, reaching for one of the backpacks that was sliding off Rose's shoulder. She took both backpacks, along with the bag of leftover coloring supplies, slinging them over her own shoulder. It wasn't much, but it was something. They walked slowly through the parking lot, Daniel carrying both girls despite his arms clearly aching, because that's what fathers did. Rebecca walked beside them, close enough that Lily could still reach out and touch her arm occasionally, as if making sure she was still there. "Where's your car?" Daniel asked. "The blue sedan over there," Rebecca pointed. "Where's yours? Or I guess, where was your car before it decided to quit on you?" Daniel laughed, a tired sound. "Still, on Highway 65, waiting for a tow truck that may or may not show up tonight. I'll deal with it tomorrow. My sister is going to pick us up." "Your sister?" Rebecca said. "You called her to come get you?" "Yeah, she lives about 20 minutes from here. I texted her from the gas station." He shifted Rose's weight slightly. "She's actually the one who convinced me to try the dating app in the first place. She's been on my case for months about getting back out there." "She sounds nice," Rebecca said. "She's pushy," Daniel corrected with affection in his voice. "But she means well. After Christina died, my wife, everyone kept telling me I needed to move on. But I wasn't ready. The girls were so young, and I was barely keeping my head above water. Work, daycare, cooking, cleaning, bedtime routines. It was all just survival mode." They reached Rebecca's car, and she unlocked it, setting the backpacks in the back seat. The girls had both gone quiet, their heads resting on their father's shoulders, eyes half closed. "What changed?" Rebecca asked softly. "What made you ready?" Daniel looked down at his daughters, then back at Rebecca. "One day, about 2 months ago, Rose asked me if I was lonely, just out of nowhere while I was making dinner, and I realized I'd been lying to myself. I told myself I was fine, that I had the girls, and that was enough. But the truth was, I was lonely. Really lonely. I missed having someone to talk to at the end of the day. Someone who wasn't 6 years old and obsessed with hamsters." "Hey," Lily mumbled sleepily. "Mr. Whiskers is very interesting." Rebecca smiled, but her heart ached for this man who'd been carrying so much by himself. "I'm terrified," Daniel admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Terrified of screwing this up, of bringing someone into their lives who might leave. They've already lost one mom. I can't let them get attached to someone who might disappear." The weight of his words hung in the air between them. This wasn't just about him anymore. Every choice he made affected 2 little girls who'd already been through too much. "I understand," Rebecca said, and she meant it. "That's a lot of responsibility." "It is," he agreed, "which is why I need to be honest with you right now. Tonight, as crazy as it's been amazing. You've been amazing. The way you handled everything. The way you talked to the girls. How you didn't run screaming when they showed up. Most people would have." "But," Rebecca prompted, sensing there was more. "But I can't do casual," Daniel said firmly. "I can't date just to date. If we do this, if we see each other again, I need to know you're in it for real. Because they'll get attached." He glanced down at Lily, who was now fully asleep in his arms. "They already like you. I can tell. And if this doesn't work out, if you decide this is too much baggage, they'll be heartbroken." Rebecca leaned against her car, processing his words. This was a lot, for a first date. Most guys wouldn't even commit to a second date, and here was Daniel, asking her to consider the hearts of two little girls she'd just met. The smart thing would be to walk away. To say this was moving too fast, that she needed time to think. That's what her logical brain was telling her to do, but her heart was saying something completely different. "I'm a trauma surgeon," Rebecca said slowly. "Do you know what that means? It means I work 60-hour weeks sometimes. It means I get called in at 3 in the morning. It means I miss holidays and birthdays because someone's life is on the line. I've had guys tell me it's too much, that they can't handle dating someone who's never fully available." Daniel was quiet, listening. "And you know what?" Rebecca continued. "They were right to walk away, because I wasn't going to change. My career is part of who I am. But it also means I understand commitment. I understand responsibility. When I'm in, I'm all in. I don't do anything halfway." She pushed off from the car and stepped closer to him, looking him directly in the eyes. "So, yes. This is fast. Yes, it's complicated. And yes, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little scared. But I haven't felt this comfortable with someone in years. And your daughters are incredible. They're sweet and funny and smart, and any woman would be lucky to be part of their lives." "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Daniel asked, hope creeping into his voice. "I'm saying I want to see you again," Rebecca said simply. "Not because I'm settling, or because I feel obligated after tonight's chaos, but because I genuinely want to know you better. All three of you." Daniel's face broke into the biggest smile she'd seen all night. "Really?" "Really," she confirmed. Rose stirred in his arms, lifting her head slightly. "Is Rebecca coming home with us?" she asked, in a sleepy voice. "Not tonight, baby," Daniel said gently. "But maybe we can see her again soon." "Good," Rose mumbled, already drifting back to sleep. "I like her." A car pulled into the parking lot, and Daniel nodded toward it. "That's my sister." The car pulled up beside them, and a woman who looked to be in her late 30s rolled down the window. She had the same blue eyes as Daniel, and her mouth dropped open when she saw Rebecca. "Oh my God," she said. "She actually stayed. You weren't kidding." "Helen, please," Daniel groaned. "Don't make this weird. This is already weird, little brother. You sent your children ahead to your first date. That ship has sailed." Helen got out of the car and walked around to help with the girls. "Hi, I'm Helen, the sister who made all this happen. And you must be the saint who didn't run away screaming." "Rebecca," she said, shaking Helen's hand and liking her immediately. "And it wasn't that bad." "She's lying," Helen said to Daniel. "She's clearly too nice. Don't screw this up." Helen took Rose from Daniel's arms and started buckling her into the car seat in the back. Daniel gently transferred Lily to the other car seat, both girls barely waking during the transfer. When both girls were secured, Daniel turned back to Rebecca. They stood there awkwardly for a moment, neither quite sure what to do. "Can I call you?" Daniel asked. "Tomorrow, maybe? We could plan something. Just the two of us next time. I promise." "I'd like that," Rebecca said. Then, on impulse, she stepped forward and kissed him on the cheek. "Thank you for tonight. Even with the broken car and the grease stains, it was perfect." Daniel touched his cheek where she'd kissed him, looking dazed. "I'll call you tomorrow." Rebecca watched as they drove away, Helen's car disappearing into the night. She stood there in the empty parking lot for a long moment, trying to process everything that had just happened. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. "How'd it go? Did he show up, or should I start plotting revenge?" Rebecca smiled and typed back. "He showed up. With his twin daughters. Long story. I'll call you tomorrow." 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "What?" "Call me now." But Rebecca just smiled and got in her car. Some stories needed to be told in person, and some nights needed to be savored just a little bit longer before being shared with the world. Rebecca's phone rang at 7 in the morning. She'd barely slept, her mind replaying every moment from the night before. When she saw Daniel's name on the screen, her heart did a little flip. "Hello," she answered, trying not to sound too eager. "Hi." Daniel's voice came through, warm but slightly nervous. "I know I said I'd call today, but I didn't specify when. Is it too early? Did I wake you?" Rebecca smiled, tucking her phone between her ear and shoulder as she poured coffee. "I was already up. Couldn't sleep much anyway." "Me neither," he admitted. "The girls woke up at 6 asking if we could call you. I told them 7 was more reasonable. They're currently making breakfast with Helen, and probably destroying her kitchen in the process." Rebecca could hear giggling in the background, followed by Helen's voice saying something about pancake batter on the ceiling. "Sounds like they're having fun. That's one word for it," Daniel laughed. "Listen, I was thinking about what you said last night. About wanting to see me again. Us, again. And I was wondering if you were free this afternoon? I know it's short notice. And I completely understand if you have plans." "What did you have in mind?" Rebecca asked, her stomach fluttering with anticipation. "Well, that's the thing. The girls really want to see you again. They've been talking about you nonstop since they woke up, and I know I said our next date would be just the two of us. But I was thinking maybe we could do something all together? Go to the park, maybe? Let them run around while we actually get to talk without a waiter hovering?" Rebecca thought about it for a moment. Most dating advice would say this was moving too fast, that she should establish a relationship with Daniel first before getting more involved with his children. But most dating advice was written by people who'd never met Lily and Rose. "I'd love that," she said. "Really?" Daniel sounded genuinely surprised. "You're sure? Because I don't want you to feel pressured." "Daniel," Rebecca said gently, "if I felt pressured, I wouldn't have given you my real number. I want to spend time with you. All of you." She heard him let out a breath he'd been holding. Okay, great. How about 2 o'clock? Riverside Park. By the duck pond? I'll be there," Rebecca promised. After they hung up, Rebecca stood in her kitchen with a goofy smile on her face. Then, reality hit her. "What did you wear to a park date with a man and his 2 daughters?" She called Jennifer. "It's 7 in the morning on a Saturday." Jennifer groaned into the phone. "This better be good. I need help picking an outfit," Rebecca said. "For what? Work?" "You always wear scrubs. For a date. At the park. This afternoon." There was a pause. Then Jennifer's voice came back sharp and alert. "Wait. The date from last night? The one with the mysterious twin daughters? You're seeing him again already?" "It's a long story," Rebecca said. "I've got time," Jennifer replied. "Start talking." By the time Rebecca finished explaining everything, Jennifer was fully awake and invested. "This is either the sweetest thing I've ever heard, or you're about to get your heart broken in the most complicated way possible." "Thanks for the vote of confidence," Rebecca said dryly. "I'm serious, Becca. This guy comes with a whole family. Are you ready for that?" My. Rebecca thought about Rose's shy smile and Lily's endless chatter. She thought about the way Daniel looked at his daughters, like they were his entire world. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. "Then, wear the yellow sundress. The one with the little flowers. You look happy in that dress, and happy looks good on you." At exactly 2 o'clock, Rebecca walked through Riverside Park, carrying a bag with a blanket and some snacks she'd picked up from the store. She spotted them before they saw her. Daniel was pushing both girls on the swings, running back and forth between them, clearly exhausted but laughing. The girls were shrieking with joy, their blonde hair flying behind them. "Higher, Daddy, higher," Lily called out. "If I push you any higher, you'll fly away," Daniel called back. "That's the point," Rose giggled. Rebecca stood there watching them for a moment, her chest tight with emotion. This was what a family looked like. Messy, and loud, and full of love. Then Lily spotted her. "Rebecca," she shouted, dragging her feet to stop the swing. "You came!" Both girls jumped off their swings and ran toward her. Rebecca barely had time to set down her bag before they crashed into her in a double hug. She stumbled back slightly, laughing, wrapping her arms around both of them. "Of course I came," she said. "I promised, didn't I?" Daniel jogged over, slightly out of breath, his hair messy from the wind. He wore jeans and a blue t-shirt, and he looked so different from the stressed man in the grease-stained shirt last night. He looked relaxed, happy. "Hey," he said, his smile warm and genuine. "Hey yourself," Rebecca replied. "What's in the bag?" Lily asked, already trying to peek inside. "Lily, manners," Daniel reminded her gently. "It's okay," Rebecca said, opening the bag. "I brought some snacks. Fruit, crackers, juice boxes. I wasn't sure what you guys liked. We like everything," Lily declared. "Except mushrooms," Rose added seriously. "We don't like mushrooms." "Good to know," Rebecca laughed. "No mushrooms." "Got it." They spread the blanket under a large oak tree with a perfect view of the duck pond. The girls immediately kicked off their shoes and sat down, helping Rebecca unpack the snacks. Daniel sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. For a while, they just sat there together, watching the ducks glide across the water while the girls munched on apple slices and chatted about everything and nothing. It felt comfortable, natural, like they'd done this 100 times before. "So," Daniel said quietly while the girls were distracted by a family of ducks waddling past, "how are you feeling about all this?" "I know it's a lot." Rebecca turned to look at him. "Honestly, I keep waiting to feel overwhelmed or scared, but I just feel happy. Is that weird?" "If it is, then we're both weird," Daniel said, his eyes soft. "Because I feel the same way." "Can we feed the ducks?" Lily asked, bouncing on her knees. "We didn't bring bread," Daniel said. "And actually, bread isn't good for ducks anyway. They can have some of our crackers," Rebecca suggested. "Just a few." The girls squealed with excitement and carefully carried some crackers toward the pond's edge. Daniel and Rebecca followed, standing close together as they watched the twins gently toss small pieces toward the ducks. "They're really great kids," Rebecca said. "You've done an amazing job with them." Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. "Some days I'm not sure. Some days I feel like I'm failing at everything. I burn dinner, or I forget it's pajama day at school, or I'm too tired to read them bedtime stories. Christina would have been so much better at this." Rebecca reached over and took his hand. It was the first time they'd really touched, and she felt him startle slightly before his fingers intertwined with hers. "You're not failing," she said firmly. "Those girls adore you. They feel safe and loved and happy. That's not failing. That's succeeding at the most important thing." Daniel looked down at their joined hands, then back at her face. "How are you so understanding about all of this? Most people would have run the other direction by now." "Maybe I'm not most people," Rebecca said with a small smile. "No," Daniel agreed softly. "You're definitely not." They stood there for a moment, hands linked, watching the girls laugh at the ducks fighting over crackers. It felt like a turning point. Like they were both acknowledging that this thing between them was real and worth exploring. "Rebecca!" Rose called out. "Come see this baby duck. It's so tiny." Rebecca squeezed Daniel's hand once before letting go and heading toward the girls. But she could feel his eyes on her, warm and grateful. They spent the next 2 hours at the park. They played tag, the girls ganging up on the adults and declaring themselves the winners. They had races across the grass, Rebecca kicking off her sandals to run barefoot. They collected interesting rocks and leaves, the girls explaining in great detail why each one was special. At one point, Lily fell and scraped her knee. Before Daniel could even move, Rebecca was there, pulling a small first aid kit from her purse. She cleaned the scrape gently, talking to Lily in a calm, steady voice that came from years of working with scared patients. "You come prepared," Daniel observed, impressed. "Old habits," Rebecca said, carefully applying a Band-Aid with cartoon butterflies on it. I always carry basic medical supplies. You never know when you'll need them. Arm, she's like a superhero, Rose whispered in awe. By the time the sun started to lower in the sky, both girls were tired, grass-stained, and completely content. They lay on the blanket with their heads in Rebecca's lap, while Daniel packed up the leftover snacks. This was the best day, Lily mumbled, her eyes already drooping. The very best, Rose agreed. Rebecca gently stroked their hair, feeling her heart expand in a way she'd never experienced before. This feeling, this warmth, it was something she hadn't even known she was missing. Daniel looked at them, all three of his girls together, and something shifted in his expression. It wasn't fear anymore. It was hope. We should probably get these two home, he said softly, before they fall asleep right here. Do we have to? Lily groaned. Yes, Daniel said firmly but kindly. But maybe, if Rebecca wants, she could come over for dinner tomorrow? Both girls sat up instantly, suddenly wide awake. Really? Rose asked. Really? Rebecca echoed, surprised. Daniel looked nervous but determined. I make a mean spaghetti. And the girls have been wanting to show you Mr. Whiskers. Plus, I figure it's only fair. You've spent your weekend with us. The least I can do is feed you. Rebecca felt tears prick at her eyes. This was big, being invited into their home, into their daily life. This was Daniel, opening the door wider, letting her fully in. I would love that, she said. The girls cheered, and Daniel's whole face relaxed into a smile that made her stomach flip. As they walked back to the parking lot, Lily slipped her hand into Rebecca's on one side while Rose took the other. Daniel walked beside them, carrying the blanket and bags, watching this scene unfold with wonder in his eyes. For the first time in 3 years, he could imagine a future that included more than just him and the girls. He could imagine Sunday mornings, with 4 people at the breakfast table. He could imagine someone to share the burden and the joy with. He could imagine love again. And judging by the way Rebecca looked at his daughters, the way she fit so naturally into their little family, maybe she could imagine it too. Sunday evening arrived faster than Rebecca expected. She stood outside Daniel's house with a bouquet of flowers in one hand and a box of cookies in the other, suddenly nervous in a way she hadn't been at the park. This was different. This was their home, their private space, and she was about to step into it. The house was a modest 2-story, with a small front yard that desperately needed mowing. There were chalk drawings on the driveway, colorful swirls and stick figures that could only have been created by 6-year-olds. A bike with training wheels lay on its side near the garage. It was messy and lived in, and somehow perfect. Before she could even knock, the door flew open. Both girls stood there in matching purple dresses, their hair pulled back in ponytails, grinning from ear to ear. You're here, Lily practically shouted. We've been watching for you for like an hour, Rose added. Girls, let her come inside first, Daniel's voice called from somewhere inside the house. And it's been 10 minutes, not an hour. Rebecca stepped into the entryway and was immediately struck by how much she could learn about a person from their home. There were photos everywhere, pictures of the girls at different ages, school artwork hung with magnets on the refrigerator, a coat rack overflowing with jackets and backpacks. It was chaotic but warm, a home where people actually lived rather than just existed. Daniel appeared from the kitchen wearing an apron that said, "Dad jokes loading," and had a smudge of tomato sauce on his cheek. His hair was slightly messy, and he looked flustered, but happy. Hey, he said, his whole face lighting up when he saw her. You found us okay? Your directions were perfect, Rebecca said, handing him the flowers. These are for you. Well, for all of you. They're beautiful, Daniel said, taking them with a smile that made her heart skip. You really didn't have to bring anything. And these are cookies, Rebecca said, handing the box to the girls. From the bakery, on 5th Street. Can we have one now? Lily asked, already opening the box. After dinner, Daniel said firmly. Speaking of which, I need to get back to the kitchen before the sauce burns. Girls, Why don't you show Rebecca around? The twins grabbed her hands and pulled her through the house like eager tour guides. They showed her the living room with its comfortable couch and TV, where they explained they watched cartoons every Saturday morning while eating cereal. They showed her their playroom, which was an explosion of toys, books, and art supplies. This is where we keep Mr. Whiskers, Rose said, pointing to a large cage in the corner where a small brown hamster was running on a wheel. We wanted to name him Sir Fluffington, Lily explained. But Daddy said that was too long for the vet forms. Lily. Ask. Lily. Lily Buddy Wan. Rebecca laughed, crouching down to look at the hamster. Hello, Mr. Whiskers. I've heard a lot about you. The hamster stopped running and looked at her with tiny black eyes, as if evaluating whether she was worthy of his attention. He likes you, Rose declared. He usually hides when new people come over. Then came the part Rebecca had been both anticipating and dreading. The girls led her upstairs and showed her their bedroom, which had 2 twin beds with matching purple comforters and more stuffed animals than seemed physically possible. And this, Lily said, pushing open another door, is Daddy's room. Rebecca felt awkward looking into Daniel's private space, but the girls had already pulled her inside. It was neat and simple. A large bed with a blue comforter, a dresser, a bookshelf filled with engineering textbooks and mystery novels, and there, on the nightstand, was the photo the girls had mentioned. A young woman in a white wedding dress, holding a bouquet of roses, her smile radiant and full of life. Christina. Rebecca felt a lump form in her throat. This woman had been so beautiful, so young, and she'd left behind 2 little girls and a husband who still loved her enough to keep her photo by his bed. That's our mommy, Rose said quietly, coming to stand beside Rebecca. Daddy says we look just like her. You do, Rebecca said softly. She was very beautiful. Do you think she would have liked you? Lily asked, her voice small and uncertain. Rebecca knelt down so she was at eye level with both girls. This was important. This moment mattered more than anything else. I don't know, she said honestly. But I hope so, because I really like her daughters, and anyone who raised girls as wonderful as you 2 must have been an incredible person. Lily hugged her suddenly, fiercely. Rose joined in a moment later. They stood there in Daniel's bedroom, wrapped around each other, and Rebecca felt something click into place in her chest. Girls, dinner's ready, Daniel called from downstairs. They pulled apart, and the girls ran downstairs. Their moment of vulnerability already replaced with excitement about eating, Rebecca took one last look at Christina's photo, silently promising this woman she'd never met that she would take care of them. All 3 of them. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. The spaghetti was actually delicious, and Daniel had even made garlic bread and a simple salad. They ate at a round wooden table that had definitely seen better days, its surface marked with crayon stains and what looked like permanent marker. I've tried everything to get those out, Daniel said, noticing her looking at the marks. Finally gave up and decided their character. I think they're perfect, Rebecca said. The girls talked non-stop through dinner, telling Rebecca about their school, their friends, their favorite TV shows. Daniel interjected occasionally with corrections or clarifications. But mostly, he just watched, his eyes moving between his daughters and Rebecca, with an expression she was starting to recognize, hope mixed with disbelief, like he couldn't quite believe this was happening. After dinner, while Daniel cleaned up despite Rebecca's offers to help, the girls insisted on showing her their latest art projects. They brought out a stack of drawings, each one carefully explained in great detail. This is our house, Lily said, holding up a picture with a square building and 4 stick figures in front of it. Rebecca looked at the drawing more closely. There were 3 figures she recognized, one tall, one labeled Daddy, and 2 small ones labeled Lily and Rose. But there was a 4th figure, also tall, standing next to Daddy. Who's this? Rebecca asked, her throat tight. The girls exchanged a look. We don't know yet, Rose said quietly. We drew it yesterday, after the park. We thought maybe. Lily started, then stopped, suddenly shy. Rebecca felt tears burning in her eyes. These sweet girls had drawn her into their family picture without even knowing if she'd stay. The trust in that gesture, the hope, it was almost too much. Daniel appeared in the doorway, dish towel in hand. He saw the drawing and went very still. His eyes met Rebecca's, and she saw her own emotions reflected there. Fear, hope, love, all tangled together. "It's time for bed, girls," he said softly. "But Rebecca just got here," Lily protested. "It's already past your bedtime," Daniel said. "You can say goodnight to Rebecca, and maybe, if she wants, she can come back again soon." "Tomorrow?" Rose asked hopefully. Daniel laughed. "Rebecca has work tomorrow. She's a doctor, remember? She has to take care of people." The girls hugged Rebecca goodnight, making her promise to come back soon. Then, Daniel led them upstairs for their bedtime routine. Rebecca could hear him reading them a story, his voice gentle and patient, answering their endless questions about plot points and character motivations. When he came back downstairs 20 minutes later, Rebecca was standing in the living room, looking at the photos on the wall. There was a whole timeline there. Daniel and Christina's wedding, the girls as babies, first birthdays, first days of school. A life, documented in pictures. "I need to tell you something," Daniel said, coming to stand beside her. Rebecca turned to face him, her heart pounding. "I haven't dated anyone since Christina died," he continued. "You're the first person I've even wanted to try with. And I know it's only been 2 days since we met, which is completely insane. But I can't stop thinking about you. About how you fit with us, with my girls, how natural it all feels." "Daniel," Rebecca started. But he held up a hand. "Let me finish. I'm terrified of this. Terrified of what it means. Of moving too fast. Of the girls getting hurt if things don't work out. But I'm more terrified of letting you walk away without telling you how I feel. I like you, Rebecca. Really like you. And I think, maybe, if you're willing, we could see where this goes." Rebecca stepped closer to him, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his blue eyes. "I'm terrified too," she admitted. "I've never done anything like this before. I've never met someone's kids on the first date. I've never felt this comfortable with someone this quickly. It goes against everything. Logical. But," Daniel prompted hopefully. "But sometimes the best things in life don't make logical sense," Rebecca said. "Sometimes you just have to trust what you feel. And I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Daniel's smile was brilliant. He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in his hands. "Can I kiss you, please?" Rebecca whispered. He kissed her softly, gently, like she was something precious. It wasn't passionate or dramatic. It was tender and full of promise. A beginning rather than a destination. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling like teenagers. "So," Daniel said, still holding her face, "I guess this means you'll come back?" "Try to stop me," Rebecca said. From upstairs, they heard a small voice. "Did Daddy just kiss Rebecca?" "Shh, they'll hear you," another voice hissed. Daniel groaned. "They're supposed to be asleep." Rebecca laughed. "I don't think anything gets past those two." "You have no idea," Daniel said, but he was smiling. As Rebecca drove home that night, her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. It was a photo of the drawing the girls had made, the one with 4 stick figures. Below it, he'd written, "They already labeled the 4th person. It says, Rebecca, I think you're stuck with us now." Rebecca looked at that drawing, at the simple stick figure family, and felt her heart swell with emotion. 3 months ago, she'd been alone, wondering if she'd ever find someone who understood her crazy schedule and demanding career. Now she had a man who looked at her like she hung the moon, and 2 little girls who'd already drawn her into their family. Sometimes the best love stories didn't start with romance and candlelight. Sometimes they started with car trouble and twin girls in pink dresses who had the courage to walk up to a stranger in a cafe and change everyone's lives forever. Rebecca saved the photo to her favorites and typed back, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And she meant it with every fiber of her being.